Right, so with the new Dash Armory deck comes Cerebellum Processor. So I thought we'd do a little video going over its utility, right? The best ways to possibly make use of it. Now, it does really shine in Dash.io, especially with their own ability, because it functionally shifts this from just playing any item to becoming a draw ability, right? So once per turn, you may play a mechanized item with cost 0/1 from the top of your deck. As though we're instant, it costs an additional 1 to play, meaning that you are able to make use of both the crank and the draw function of Cerebellum Processor straight away through using Dash.io's ability. So for instance, if we were to pop our Tunic, gain our resource, right, we can put the processor into play, crank it, and then of course use its ability to generate an extra card in hand, right, allowing us a little bit extra tempo for our turn. Now that's probably the fundamental way that LSS is probably, right, fishing for it to be used in the case of Dash.io. So every now and then, once one of them appears on top of your deck, that's when you can go into this nice bigger swing turn. But we have a few other ways to also make use of it. So for instance, we have Quantum Processor, right, which is a crank card and allows you once per turn instance put another mechanized item with a cost of 0/1 from your hand into the arena. So by using these in conjunction with one another, we can also make use of the draw of Cerebellum Processor. Now, obviously this is a minus to hand, so this is something more of a game plan for a longer match, right? So for instance, if we were to Quantum Processor, we'd have to pitch for it for starters, so we'll get rid of Spark of Genius, crank it for its action points, then that allows us to play Cerebellum Processor at instant speed, which then of course we can crank for the extra action points to then utilize its draw. But overall, right, we've lost a card to pitching, we've lost a card to actually playing the Quantum Processor, all for one draw. Now, in all honesty, the way that I love to think of Cerebellum Processor is as this utility piece to have a nice big swing turn, right? So imagine you empty your hand, but you have this on board because it will stick around, right? If you crank it, you still get 2 turns out of it. Its upkeep will destroy it the second turn it's been played, or if you don't crank it, you'll actually get 3 turns out of it, right? So each of those turns, you can empty your hand and then use this as almost akin to a Ponder token, as long as you do have the action points, to then have a card to Arsenal, which in itself is a very, very strong effect in, of course, the competitive setting of FAB. Now, as Dash, we also have access to Spark of Genius, which allows us to search our deck for a mechanologist item and put it into play. Now, Spark of Genius does not have go again, so we would have to use the crank effect of the Cerebellum Processor, but the nice thing is this is 0 cost, right? So Spark of Genius will allow us to easily find a Cerebellum Processor, no matter where it is in our deck, right? Meaning that we take the 3 and 60 to now be a 6 and 60, which is quite useful. And then of course we can crank it if we don't want our ender turn right there. And we could still use the draw effect to restock, or, you know, if we boosted with Spark of Genius, we'd also get a draw off of that, and therefore, you know, it's essentially free to put it into play. But again, I do think overall the utility of this card goes towards the long haul, right? Being able to end your turn by drawing a card and having that card be something to put in your arsenal. Right, so in conjunction with some of the other pieces from the Dash Armory deck, like the Heavy Industry Power Plant and the Heavy Industry Gearship, we can also then use Cerebellum Processor to create a bigger swing turn. So for instance, right, we have a full hand of attack, say we survived our opponent's onslaught, and now we're just going to play the aggro game, right, where we go back and forth with them. So again, we can empty our hand, and then as long as we have the action point remaining, which we can achieve through Gear Shift, we can then use Cerebellum's Processor to restock our hand afterwards. But again, if we also have it on top of the deck, we can then utilize it to increase our cards, right? Because if we use Industry Power Plants, we now have a resource generator every time we boost, or again, if we had Tunic up or any other form of resource cheating, we'd be able to play this and then use its ability to draw a card. Now, what we're going to do is realize that this is broken, which I forgot about once again. So instead, we'll just enable manual mode and pretend we've played it, right? So it'd be cost 1 to play, so we'll just do a sneaky -1. And then from there, what we probably want to do is start swinging. So obviously it's on top of the deck, so ideally we'd want to put it into play first, but that would require us to pitch, right? But it does also then allow us to generate an action point, which then hopefully we can recoup, right? So we do that, we'll pitch the weaker attack, so 0 to 50, we'll crank it, go to 3 action points, and now we could double draw, and again, go into our swing turn with 1 extra card in tow. But I do want to keep 1, again, just to Arsenal. So instead, what we will do is simply go Twin Drive, which we'll pitch for 0 to 60, and then we'll boost it twice. Now this would normally generate 2 extra resources thanks to the industry power plants, and that in itself could then feed into the other twin drive and of course maximum velocity, since their costs will always carry over. And I do like that sequence of cards, right? Twin drive into maximum velocity, but even if you have, say, a 1 cost curve of boost attacks, you can now use the heavy industry power plants to fuel them into one another. So we let that hit, and then we play twin drive for free. We boost it twice, which means we generate 2 more resources. Let to land, and then of course we can play maximum velocity and still have enough action points remaining to again draw up, in case in this scenario we could even shoot. It's a Cerebellum Processor on top of the deck, so that's not super useful, but say we shoot with Symbiosis shots, and then of course end our turn by Cerebellum Processor, right? We redo our pitch, and of course we have that card to arsenal going into our defensive step. So that is quite nice, in my opinion. Now, we only drew 3 cards because I only had 3 cards left on the deck. So yeah, altogether, this is a versatile draw engine, right? Has that ability to recoup a card at the end of your turn, has the ability to extend your combo, and again, there are lots of ways to generate action points as Mechanologist, and overall, it does very well at showcasing Dash.io's ability and how useful it can be if you have the right items, right? Putting something into play that can really benefit you, or at the very least, recoup its cost, right? If you had a blue pitch ball or even a yellow, this would allow you to float resources as you put the processor into play and use its draw ability, right? You still have the same size hand, but now you have those extra resources to spend. Now, of course, also worth mentioning when it comes to Cerebellum Processor is my personal favorite, but somewhat unrealistic, right? System reset. So this will allow you to replay the Cerebellum Processor, using the draw ability or cranking it for the action points and extending how long it lasts on board. But of course, to actually make this, net positive in terms of draw, you need 1 system reset to 3 Cerebellum Processors, right? So you need to have all 3 on board. The reason for that is obviously you have to pitch, you have to play, and therefore that's already a -2, meaning you have to draw 3. Plus, then you also need the action point for system reset, but still worth mentioning. And then just across the board, right, it's useful not just in Dash.io, this is a very, very versatile draw engine. And again, the fact that it sticks around on board is pretty crazy to me. I almost feel like the draw should have, cost a steam counter to it, or maybe it only has 1 steam counter. But yeah, throw it out there, -1, you still get 2 turns out of it. Throw it out there, don't -1, and you still get 3 turns out of it. Pretty nuts. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. See ya.